I come to a church because it's a Sunday, it's Sabbath. I like to pray. I love to come to the Unitarian chapel because I believe in one God. Unitarian, meaning one God. I love the hymns. I love the shape of the chapel. The architect was Thomas Worthington, a Victorian architect who was a personal friend of Florence Nightingale. I come from an NHS background, and so I like the connection. I just love coming to the chapel.
Well, I like the Unitarian service very much. I feel really part of a community when I come here. I'm quite new to it. I only joined about a year ago when I first met Danny, and it just gives you a sort of a base of centering for the week, I think. And I love the way he links everything together. So he's talking about things that we've talked about in other services, or he's talked about, and it just keeps reminding you of what your faith and what the whole thing means as to your life, really.
Well, I was brought up mostly in the Church of England, and I couldn't say the creed, and I didn't believe that we're all erring and straying all over the place. And when I came to my aunt's after my aunt's funeral, which was here, I attended a service, and there was no mention of sin, and there was no mention of being wicked, and I thought, I can cope with this.
For me, it's a quiet, reflective time that, from a purely selfish point of view, helps me recharge my batteries, ready to go and face the hustle and bustle of life. But also it's that sharing of community with, I was going to say like-minded people, but if you're talking about a Unitarian church, it might not be like-minded people, with other people. My father died when I was 15 and I didn't want anything to do with anything. And then came here to my boyfriend's youth group, UYPL as it was then, and thought, what's the church like behind it? And just got involved that way. And I suppose really I didn't fully understand what Unitarianism was, but felt very welcome and suddenly felt very at home and able to question things without people judging. So I feel very at home here with, as I said before, people who may or may not share the same views.
It's my way of connecting with people, my way of enjoying a service. Being Unitarian, it suits who I am. I don't want to be bogged down by any creed. I like to be able to find my own way, and I think coming to Unitarian Church does that for me. You can think your own thoughts, nobody will criticise me for it, and the people are friendly and people are mad, and I love that, and I think I'm one of them. So.
I come to this church because I like the peace and quiet that it gives you for an hour every week, away from the bustle of everyday life, and the mundane things, and you can focus on something else. And you never know what you're going to focus on. The addresses are wonderful, they're very various in themes and in subject, and indeed in quality. But on the whole, that's why I come to church. And also, having been brought up a rather strict Welsh Presbyterian, I have now don't have to believe a dogma that I find a bit archaic.
It's the type of things I think are important in life, community, feelings, what's going on in various different people's lives. That to me is what is important, and I like to listen to other people's experiences and what they're going through, because I feel it helps me be aware of what other people go through, and it takes me out of my world to think about what's going on in other people's lives. It's not necessarily concentrated on just the Bible and the stories in the Bible. It's concentrated on here and now and what's going on and the effects different people's lives has on their lives. And I like to talk about and listen to things like that.
I was greeted so warmly. I just sat near the back on the left-hand side as you look at the pulpit. And that became my seat every week for a long, long time. I became more and more involved because Celia realised that I liked to read poetry. And I can only say it was just the best thing I ever did in my life. I would never have thought when I was in my 20s that I would ever have been a Unitarian. Now, in my late 60s, I cannot imagine how I survived all those years without being one. So that's why I'm a Unitarian.
Thank you. I'm Chris, and I was drawn to Unitarianism because of its liberal theology. Its lack of a strict doctrine that I have to believe. It allows me to question things, it allows me to be myself, it allows me to have my own mind, and that's something you don't get everywhere else. I love this chapel because first of all, it's local, but I'm so lucky to have it so local. It's got a thriving congregation, a really mixed age group from sort of 18 upwards in terms of the adults, and a strong youth section as well. And I got to know the minister outside of chapel, and it appealed to me what he had to say.
My name is Carolyn, and I came to Unitarianism because my husband and I wanted a liberal religion that would accept us both. I'm from the Jewish tradition, my husband was Welsh Presbyterian, and as soon as I came into a Unitarian church, I realised how very welcoming it was. Everybody was welcome. It was so inclusive. And as I got to know Unitarianism better, I began to see that it celebrated love and life, and all life is connected. And this to me was absolutely wonderful. And being an astronomer as a hobby, and realising how very small the earth is, and how very precious it is. I love the idea that we're all connected, we're all related, we all have to look after our precious little planet. And Unitarianism stresses this. It's not an us and them, it's an everybody and everything. It's all love. It's just wonderful. We were directed to Dunham Road Chapel because I had a Jewish background. The minister told us that the minister I consulted about Unitarianism told us that the minister at Dunham Road was very pro-Jewish and had worked with Jewish youth clubs, and that was the reason we first came. But from the first service I was quite enchanted, and I found the love, the welcome that I received here was amazing. I enjoy the services, I enjoy the structure of the services, because being used to a prayer book where you recited the prayers, to have prayers said to you that were new, modern, relevant, and you never knew what was coming next. Their services were exciting, they were wonderful, and I've just loved being a member of Dunham Road. I've never wanted to go anywhere else. It's home.